Yes.
Off we go.
Hello and welcome to Leaders Worldwide Toastmasters Club. We're delighted to have you here. And please remember to take your phones and disconnect them. I am Sally Reyes, your Sergeant at Arms. And I would like to have you help me welcome Cynthia, our Toastmaster extraordinaire, Division D director, and
assistant director.
Yeah, okay, general intuitive and guardian angel, the ineffable Cynthia Stott.
Thank you, Sally. Welcome, everyone. Oh, I'm so excited. We've got an amazing event for you today. We have Sarah Kahn, who's going to be here about 6:30, and we're going to start with her presentations, about 45 minutes long, and then you get 15 minutes of Q&A. So lots of time with Sarah today. And because of that, we don't have our Speechcraft. We normally have a Speechcraft breakout sessions going on at the same time as the main event here in the main room. And we are going to forgo that for next week. I would love to welcome our guests. If you would want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself, we've got Judith. Hi, Judith.
Working here. Yes, hello. Hi, I'm Judith. I am from Santa Monica, California, and I'm a member of 4 Toastmaster clubs. And
wow.
I was here once, and it's a lovely group, and thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to the meeting.
Great. And who else do we have, Linda? See if I can see here.
Hang on. We have.
Looks like we have Dr. Grace.
We have David Thornton.
Okay. Great.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Dr. Grace.
Hey.
Grace Guitira. Is that how do you say that?
Guitira.
Guitira. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the warm welcome and thanks for having me here. I am based in Katy, which is in the Houston area in Texas. I'm not a member of any group as of yet, but I'm definitely thankful for the opportunity to connect with you all. I am a coach. I provide leadership and coaching in leadership, entrepreneurship, emotional intelligence, and book writing.
Awesome.
I definitely thank you and would love to connect with you all.
How did you find out about us?
I was referred by Michelle Peticolas.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's our treasurer. She's on a trip right now. She's leaving her trip. So she's sad she couldn't be here. Well, welcome. So glad you're here.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I told her that I speak at events and all that. So she told me about the Toastmaster. I said, oh, that's great. Nice to connect.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and who else do we have? Linda?
Eileen Zurakowski.
Eileen, welcome.
Good evening. I am from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, Canada, and I'm a member of 3 clubs, and it's great to see you.
Awesome. Saskatchewan, that's where my mother-in-law is from, Regina.
Oh, send that to me in the chat box.
Great. Welcome. And
Ava,
who else do we have?
Ava Wren.
Ava. Welcome, Ava.
Yes. I just unmute myself.
Great.
Now, yes, I'm in the process of turning on my computer. So right now, the picture you see is from my cell phone. Hello, everybody, and glad to see this meeting is full of lots of mature women with a profound wisdom over here. I can tell. I'm here in Dallas, Texas. I've been here for 42 years and then retire. I spent my last 3 years in Taiwan. So officially, I'm still a member of District 67. Since I came for my daughter's wedding and got stranded here because of a pandemic, the COVID-19, it's nice to get stranded at home. So here I am. In Taiwan, they still keep the physical, that means one-on-one personal face-to-face meeting. I could barely find any meeting for me to dial in, either hybrid or just a physical meeting. I basically just cannot attend. So I am searching, screening all the Zoom meeting in the United States for me to dial in. And thanks for having me here, and glad to be here today. Back to you, Session Master.
Thank you. So glad to have you here. And we're a worldwide Toastmasters. We just started in October, but we have an email list of over 400, and we have 33 countries and 15 US states represented. So you get a worldwide connection right away.
Thank you. Since I'm online, I have a question. Does the first, third Monday versus the second, fourth Monday meeting, do they use the same phone number, same Zoom meeting number?
Yeah, same Zoom
password?
meeting number. Yeah, but we're at 6 p.m. and that one's at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And anyone else do we have?
Yeah. We'll be here all night. Karen,
Oh boy.
Karen Yella.
Oh yes, Karen. Great. I think she said she can't talk because her kids are here. She's working on a project with me, and she lives in Silicon Valley. So
Okay.
Great. And next,
Kristen Robinson.
Okay, Kristen Robinson.
Hi, folks.
Great. Hi.
Hi, I'm calling in from Oakland, California.
Awesome.
And yes, thank you to Cynthia for inviting me. I'm currently in education. I teach a college course, and I also work with students in behavior wellness. And I'm looking to transition into diversity and inclusion sometime in the future. So just building my skills as much as I can to prepare for that transition. So thanks for having me. I'm excited to learn with and from you all in this process. So thank you.
Great. Yeah. And I texted with you. Yeah, we have so much diversity here. And this is a real focus for us, is diversity and inclusion. And that's part of why we invited Sarah here today. So great. Okay, next. How many more do we have?
A lot.
A lot. Okay, we'll have to go quickly.
Lalitha A.
Great. Lalitha, welcome. Okay, try the next one, maybe.
Louise. Who? Delita. Sorry, thank you.
Hi, I'm Louise Hoodlet, and I'm from Sacramento, California, in District 39. I belong to 4 clubs, and in helping start a new club, Toastmasters in the Kitchen.
Wow.
So that'll be number 5.
Wow.
I've been in for 27 years now.
Awesome. Welcome. Glad you're here. And next.
Okay, I'm not gonna try and pronounce the last name. The first name is Malathi.
Malathi. Welcome, Malathi. Can you unmute your mic? Let's go to the next one.
Pat Hap. I know I've seen him. There we go. You're muted.
Hi, I'm Pratap. Actually, I'm joining from Malaysia. I'm a member in the MIMTL Toastmasters Club. I saw in the Sarah Khan's Facebook page about the meeting, so I thought I will dive in and see opportunity through the Zoom to see around the world. So I thought I will take advantage and see that. And thank you for having me here.
Awesome. Welcome.
And I think the last one may be Shanshan.
Great. Shanshan,
No,
welcome.
There's one more.
Hi, good morning from Singapore. My name is Shanshan. I come from 2 clubs in Singapore. Extra Rodimus and Topayo South and one in District 33, South County presenters. Yep, glad to be here.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Welcome. I love your background.
Yes.
Fueled by happy thoughts. And is there one more?
I think that is it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to turn it over
Well,
to our
Gloria was trying to
Toastmaster.
get your attention. I think it is.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, who?
Gloria.
Gloria. I'm sorry, you were not on my list.
Oh no, yeah. I just want to say a quick hi. I was supposed to have a meeting with Eileen, my friend, and then she said, why don't we just join this meeting? So I just got the link with her name on it right before, you guys started. My name's Gloria from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I'm a new member. Yeah, Toastmaster. I'm a new Toastmaster. Started January 1st, 2021 this year. So thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So exciting. I'm glad you're here today. Awesome. Welcome.
Thank you.
And without further ado, I would like to turn it over to our Toastmaster of the day, Swarna Kalan.
Thank you so much, Club President Cynthia Stott. Fabulous Monday to everyone. Can you all hear me clearly?
Yes.
On behalf of Leaders Worldwide Toastmasters Club, I welcome all of you, guests and fellow Toastmasters. It's a great pleasure for all of us to be here and to listen to Toastmaster Sarah Khan, who is going to be with us shortly. I am the Toastmaster of the day, or in layman terms, the MC of the day. Thank you so much for being here at our club. A little intro about Leaders Worldwide. We are a diverse and inclusive club, as our club president said, and we have members from all over the world. Like I am from Singapore, which is on the other side of San Francisco. So we have members from Barbados, we have members from Caribbean and worldwide. Is basically we have a lot of members from everywhere, and that makes us our club a beautiful potpourri of cultures, and I enjoy every meeting that happens here. April is the National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Each of us play a vital role in raising awareness about the prevention of child abuse. It is at most important that we each take an active stand to prevent child abuse. At Leaders Worldwide, we believe as Toastmasters, we should use our voice to help every child have a great childhood. We have an interesting lineup of today's meeting. I have just posted the agenda in the chat. You can have a look at it. I also request the guests to register in the guest registry. Going by the interesting speech that is going to be followed by our fellow Toastmaster, Rosemary, and she will be evaluated by our Division Director, Carolyn Douglas. After a short break, we will have the much awaited special guest, Sarah Khan, who will share with us the only war worth waging, followed by Q&A session, and that will be moderated by our club president, Cynthia Stott. Before we proceed, let me remind all of us to be muted and use the chat function to communicate. We will have a Q&A session at the end, and where we will moderate your questions to our special guest to answer. Do send in your questions in the chat as we proceed. Today, the role holders are Kadisha Curry, who will help us with the time. Kadisha, can you please show us your timer screens and the time sequence that we will follow in the meeting? Over to you.
Certainly, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and always welcomed guests. A hallmark of an effective speaker is the ability to express oneself within a specific amount of time. As the timer, I am responsible for tracking every part of the meeting agenda and to ensure all speakers abide by the allotted speaking time. I will by using the green, yellow, and red lights in my virtual background. For our prepared speaker, today she has 5 to 7 minutes. I will show the green light at 5 minutes, yellow at 6 minutes, and the red at 7 minutes. For our evaluator, I will show the green light at 2 minutes, the yellow at 2.5 minutes, and the red at 3 minutes. If the speaker goes over the allotted time, I will show the thank you card and kindly ask the speaker to return the virtual lectern to the Toastmaster of the day. At the end of the meeting, I will be called on to give the timer's report. Over to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Kadisha. Let us kickstart this much awaited session with a bang with our leadership moment by Master Leader Barbara Mariano. The speech timing is 3 minutes. Barbara, I request you to pin the timer, Kadisha. Let us all put our hands together to welcome Barbara to deliver the leadership moment. Over to you, Barbara.
Thank you very much. This month, April 2021, is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Thanks to many public figures who had the courage to talk about their childhood, one woman stands out above the rest. Ms. Tina Turner, who made her way from an abusive childhood, an abusive marriage, to stardom globally. She's known as the Queen Mother of rock and roll, and her career spans 5 decades. She recreated herself from the ground up after leaving a bad marriage, and now lives in Switzerland with her new husband. Not so new. So what I'm speaking about today is honoring and acknowledging all the people who have had a rough beginning and have made something magical out of their lives. She wrote in her book that she always felt her mother had not loved her and that she wasn't wanted. She was just a very young woman who didn't want another kid. That's a quote from Tina Turner. There is in psychology today, according to the Department of Health and Human Services, more children suffer from neglect than physical and sexual abuse. Sadly, many children come into this world not wanted because of circumstances like Tina's, when bonding with their mother is crucial for a healthy life. And here's another quote from Tina. I didn't have anybody really, no foundation for life. So I had to make my own way from the start. I had to go out in the world and become strong to discover my mission. Well, she sure showed us. She made it big. So, and Harvard University says, ensuring that young children have a safe, secure environment in which to grow helps them with a strong foundation for both of their futures and prosper society. Science shows us that early exposure to maltreatment or neglect can disrupt healthy development and have lifelong consequences.
Tina Turner, one of my heroes, is one of the bravest women I know who did manage to reach for the stars, and she became one. She is a positive role model for many other women who needed someone to admire and copy. I know personally she helped me along the ways to become my best self, and I'm grateful to her and all of her strength and courage and all of the other brave women that have come basically from rags to riches. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara, with such a lovely story of Tina Turner. Now we start the prepared speech section. And I would like to invite our division director, fellow member, lovely Carolyn Douglas, to share with us the project objectives and details of the speech by Toastmaster Rosemary Sweeney.
Thank you. I am so happy to be the speech evaluator for Rosemary Sweeney. Rosemary is working on Visionary Communications Pathway, and today she is in level number 2. And her project specifically is about evaluation and feedback. She's giving the very first speech. The purpose of this project is for the member to present a speech which is well constructed on any topic, receive feedback from the evaluator, and this will be a first speech, and in the second speech to apply the feedback that's given to that second speech. I want to invite you to pay close attention to all that Rosemary has to say in her 5 to 7 minute speech. Back to you, Swana.
Thank you, Carolyn. In a hyper-competitive world with short attention spans, you have just a few seconds to capture people's attention. Don't you agree? The person who grabs this attention and drives results wins. Our Toastmaster, Rosemary Sweeney, is a go-getter, someone who loves challenges, an avid hiker, and many weekends she can be found along the Y2Ku-Bul-E National Trail on the island of Dominica. Toastmaster Sweeney is also a volunteer on a domestic violence abuse hotline. Her motto, never fail to help others. Rosemary Sweeney is here to deliver her speech. Help her. Help her, Rosemary Sweeney. Rosemary, please pin the timer and over to you.
Rosemary, you're muted.
I was trying to pin the timer, but I am unable to do so.
We will help you with that.
Okay, so I'm going to start. I, slap, stop, bam, help, someone, anyone, please help me. Lizzie's eyes widened as she watched her father beating her mom. Madam Toastmasters and friends, how would you feel if you saw your mom being brutally beaten? For as long as Lizzie can remember, she saw her father beating her mom with no regret for the hurt he caused, with no regard for 10-year-old Lizzie's feeling, with no remorse. One day, when the father was beating her mom, she said, "Is this my dad? How can this man who I love and respect brutalize my mom, who I love and respect even more?" She ran between her parents. "Daddy, daddy, beat me instead." At that time, The father swung his fist, which landed bam on Lizzie's cheek. In a flash, she could not see with her left eye. She could not hear with her left ear. Then everything went black. When she came through, there was this doctor hovered over her bed. He asked us a few questions. She fell asleep, and in that sleep, she dreamt of she and her mom happily playing. Then she saw her father coming towards her like a fiery dragon with brilliant eyes and large green teeth. She screamed and woke up right away. A few days after, she went to school, and when the teacher saw her bruises, the teacher said, "Lizzie, you are too clumsy. You must be careful." Lizzie knew that the teacher did not know the full story. Imagine Lizzie's dad some days later telling her that she must not meddle in grown people's business. Why can't my family understand me? So one day, Lizzie went across town to her teacher's home. When darkness came and she was not home, her mother was upset. Her father was angry. He called the police, or so he thought. At that time, the teacher called them to tell them that Lizzie was with her, the teacher, and afraid to come to her home. Why is she afraid? The teacher then explained to the parents that because of their negative actions, it was hurting their daughter, and they needed to get help themselves in order to help her. The parents agreed with the teacher and agreed to see a counselor. Fellow Toastmasters and friends, are you aware that this may be happening to children in your community? UNICEF.org says that 1 in 4 children worldwide under the age of 5 lives with a mother who is a victim of intimate partner violence. Can you believe that? This affects children, and it is called child abuse. We may say, what is child abuse? There are various types of child abuse. One of them, physical abuse. A second one, sexual abuse. And yes, a third one, emotional abuse. And it is said that the scars which you cannot see are the ones which hurt the most. Because for the physical and sexual abuse, there may be visible signs of bruises. However, for the emotional abuse, there are no bruises. However, if you look out, you will notice certain things about these children who are emotionally abused. One, some of them are bullies because they cannot contain their anger, and we have heard children live what they learn. Another one, they have low self-esteem. When I realized that this was happening all around me, I volunteered to be a member of the domestic abuse hotline in my country. You too can do something and volunteer to assist. The United Nations SGD Social Development Goals says by 2030, we want to stamp out violence against children. I call on you, do not wait for that time. You can sign up in your area. The national hotline is 1-800 for a child. I will put that in the chat, 1-800 for a child. Let us get on board and do something to help our children. We know that children are our future, the world's future, and without them, our world will be at an end. Do not wait until you see something bad happen. We can start now. Come on board and join the fight against child abuse. You can be a counselor, you can be a volunteer, or you can be a listener. I call on you. Let us join the fight and stamp out violence and child abuse. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Rosemary, for such a touching speech. They say facts tell, stories sell. And your story today really drove the point that you have to look at just not physical and sexual abuse, but emotional abuse also as one of the important things that children may be going through. Thank you so much for this wonderful message. I ask the timer to give us 1 minute for the evaluator to do her script.
Time.
Thank you, Kadisha. Friends, what is the shortest word in the English language that contains the letters A, B, C, D, E, and F? Anyone? The answer is feedback. At Toastmasters, we believe that feedback is a very essential element of good communication. I now hand over the stage to our evaluator, Carolyn Douglas, to evaluate Rosemary's speech. The timing of the evaluation is 2 to 3 minutes. Carolyn, please pin the timer and over to you.
Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, and specifically Rosemary, I want to thank you so much for a beautiful story. First and foremost, I want to commend you on your storytelling. I want to commend you on your advocacy. I want to commend you on displaying to us how important this subject matter is to you, such that you advocate and you tell the story in such a wonderful, descriptive way, such that we're not left with guessing, what is this all about? You open your speech with drama. We got the drama, like, what's going on here? So you grab the audience attention to pay attention to you and what you had to say. The descriptions left us with a clear mind about what this talk, this speech was really all about. You use body language. I saw you do subtle movements. I think if you had not been in a confined space, it would have been much more dramatic, but it was very well done regardless. We got the message. I appreciate the fact that you also use the example of the effect of this thing on a child and what it means. Not only is it physical abuse, but it's an emotional abuse. And we saw how people in our society easily enroll themselves in denial of what's going on, not really paying attention. So you gave us a very clear description of, here's the issue, here are the things that go along with it, and there's something that we need to know so that we can do something about it. I appreciate the fact that you supported the significance and the importance of this cause by using resource data from the United Nations. That lends additional credibility to it. What would I like to see you do to do this speech again with much more effectiveness? Even though I feel it was very effectively done, please use pauses. Take your time in delivering when you are transitioning from one subject matter thought to the other. Deliberately take time to do that pause so that people are moving along with you in that. I want to highly recommend that you give this speech all over again, time and time and time again, because it's too important for you or anyone else to not speak about it. Thank you so much for your speech.
Carolyn, such a powerful evaluation and a timely reminder to all of us. As we speak, we also need to pause for someone to understand what we are saying. The power of pause. Thank you so much, Carolyn. Before we go in for a break, I would like to invite our timer to give us the timer report.
Certainly, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. Our speakers today spoke within their allotted times.
Thank you so much.
Barbara spoke for 3 minutes. Okay. The
No, you
report
can
is
go
in the
ahead. You
chat.
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. All right, I'll be laconic. Barbara spoke for 3 minutes and 11 seconds. Rosemary, 6 minutes and 31 seconds. Douglas for 3 minutes and 19 seconds. Thank you. Over to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Kadisha. We will go in for a short break, but before that, can I invite all of you to switch on your videos so we can take a lovely photo before we take a break? Can we all please open our videos? Curtis, are you here? Will you be taking a picture?
Yes, I will. Madam Toastmaster, I have the pictures.
Thank you so much. Let us go in for a short 5-minute break. The time is it 6:39? So we come back at 6:45.
Great. Enjoy your break. Great to see you all. Excited to speak with Sarah after the break.
Curtis, I'm going to dash for just a moment. Can you watch the waiting room in case Sarah shows up before I get back?
Isn't she here? I thought I saw her coming.
I think she's
Hello.
here.
I'm actually right here. I didn't realize there was a waiting room. I should have done that.
Awesome.
I'd ask the stupid question like, who let her in?
That would be Curtis.
Interesting, because I do not see her on my list.
You know, I don't see her either. She's on the participant list, but I don't see her picture.
You mean right here on Zoom or somewhere else you guys are looking at?
On Zoom.
Okay, wait.
Yeah, I don't see her box.
I'm right here.
Okay.
I just turned my video on.
Oh, you turned your video. Oh.
There she is.
There she is.
Ah, yes. Okay, I'm gonna get myself a drink of water and I'll be right back.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
Madam Toastmaster, it's time.
Thank you, Kadisha. Is everyone back?
You ready to go, Sarah?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, is Linda back? Betty back?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Can I
Swarna?
start? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I'm excited, as you all are, to listen to the much awaited segment, the keynote address by Sarah Khan. Sarah needs no introduction. In March 2021, she was honored by the Toastmasters International as one of the 5 inspiring women on International Women's Day 2021. Alongside female icons like Amanda Gordon, the youngest inaugural poet in US history, and Robin Binankasa, the Guinness World Record endurance kayaker. Sarah Khan is a professional speaker, trainer, activist, advocate, and a peace monger. Wow. Isn't that what we need? Her ongoing work as an advocate of empathy has brought her as guest speaker at schools in South California, England, Saudi Arabia, at churches, synagogues, on TEDx, HALT Prize United Nations, Al Jazeera's, AJ Plus, local newspapers, as well as guest spots on local television, radio, podcast, and a feature in Forbes magazine, Muslims of America, and a cover story in Toastmasters magazine. Sarah has presented keynotes and workshops for various organizations in the US, Middle East, India, at Bank of America, at Muslim American Professionals, HALT Prize United Nations. In Turkey, wow, the list goes on. In Taj Business Hub, India, and Toastmasters Convention. Sarah has also co-authored Hidi Lee's Sexy with No Boundaries. Sarah is also the co-founder of Awake, Align, ACT, an online support group to help people navigate through personal challenges using psychotherapeutic coping skills and spiritual women. Sarah, we are all waiting to hear you and your keynote address. Today, Sarah is addressing the most grave issues of our times and reveals her formula to maintain a surefire way to find peace in a turbulent world. So please welcome Sarah Khan with a keynote address, The Only War Worth Waging. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Swapna, for the gracious introduction. Thank you so much, everyone, and good evening to all you passionate, charismatic leaders worldwide. So it is such an incredible honor and a pleasure to be here amongst you all virtually. And, you know, although I don a lot of different hats, as Swapna rightfully mentioned, I am a speaker, trainer, advocate, author, but the one that I hold closest to my heart is a peacemonger. So, you know, basically as a peacemonger, what I do is that I fiercely promote peace by building bridges of understanding between communities through empathy. Now, just as Swapna mentioned, we could certainly use more peacemongers today, isn't it, guys? You know, it feels like we are living in an ideological combat zone, right? Differences are intensifying and polarization is tearing the seams of society. And this isn't just an American illness. This is a global pandemic. Now, you know, one of my favorite social scientists once said, people are hard to hate close up, so move in. So, you know, as a peacemonger, whenever I talk about the importance of fostering peace, I always include stories from my childhood. Now, even though I've been in the United States for almost 3 decades, and I'm sure you guys, Americans, can't tell from my accent, it hasn't changed, but I still consider myself a proud Bombayite, as India is my birth country. You know, you should see the way people stare at me when I tell them that I was born in a Hindu country. I was raised as a Muslim in a conservative Islamic household. And since the age of 3, I studied under nuns in an all-girls Catholic convent. Yeah, to them, it seems like the perfect formula for spontaneous combustion. But you know, guys, in reality, it equipped me with the ability to not only empathize, but also to express tolerance and respect for those on the opposite ends of my ideological spectrum. Now, I remember at home, you know, back home when I was a little girl, every single morning I would wake up at the crack of dawn, and then I'd lay my little prayer rug down, and then I'd say, Allahu Akbar, and then start praying. And then at school, we would all march our way to the church, where the nuns and the priest would start the morning prayers with, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Now, you know, my favorite part, guys, was after Mass, you know, when they'd pass around that wafer dipped in holy water. Has anyone ever tried that? Yeah. So you guys know that it has no taste, right? But you know, the mere joy that came from sharing it with all of my Catholic friends made its taste as sweet as paradise. Now, since all of my neighbors were Hindus, my favorite trips with them would be to the temple. Now, I remember as a tiny girl, I would have to jump really high to ring those temple bells. Thankfully, as an adult, I won't have to jump anymore. I'd use a step stool, yeah, because I'm vertically challenged. And then, you know, we'd all join our hands and we'd bow our head in prayer and then wait for the temple priest to distribute those mouth-watering Indian sweets called mithai. I think it's called mithai. Sapna would confirm. But then, you know, I remember this one time, guys, we had a potluck, okay? And Annie, my Catholic friend, she brought pork chops. And I was like, swine? Referring to the chops, of course, not to Annie, okay? Whereas Preeti, my Hindu friend, she looked at my beef kebabs and yelled, holy cow! So, you know, even though we nourished ourselves with different food and wisdom traditions, because we had moved in, we not only tolerated, but celebrated our differences. Now, my last memories of India were the Bombay riots that followed the Babri Mosque demolition. Now, being a young girl, I was oblivious to how religions can be exploited, how they can be manipulated and leveraged for political gain. You know, guys, when we become too attached to an ideology, whether it be religious or political, we leave no room for nuance. You're either with us or you're against us. That's the mentality. But what we fail to realize is that both sides' perspective is their only reality. So their truth is as self-evident to them as ours is to us. Now, what I'll always remember about the Bombay riots is that our Hindu neighbors risked their lives to protect us against the Hindu mobs that went door to door looking to kill Muslims. Now, because our neighbors had moved in and had gotten to know us, they were able to understand our perspective and empathize with our vulnerable situation. And had we not moved in, and we would have never trusted them with our lives, knowing that they belonged to the same religion as the marauders who wanted to kill us. Embracing our shared humanity by coming closer. That had been my only experience while in India. And then in the early 90s, my family moved to America in pursuit of the American dream. Now, I don't mean owning a 7-Eleven. okay? But you know, 9/11 changed everything for me. Now, on September 11th, 2001, when America came under attack, fear gripped our country and doubts became justified. Now, people started questioning not only the nation's security and their personal safety, but also the loyalty of fellow Americans of Muslim faith. As the nation succumbed to Islamophobia, Muslims became victims of hate, of prejudice and violence. Tell me something, guys. Have you ever been judged? Or have you ever been criticized or treated differently based on how you look, based on how you sound or where you're from? Yeah. Now imagine being bullied in public because of your physical appearance and their ignorance. Now, believe it or not, I've had random people yell profanities at me at malls and at grocery stores. I've actually had parents fearfully pull their kids away from mine at parks. I've been told, get out of my country, you camel jockey. And that's horrible, you know? Not only because it's hateful, but also because in India, we ride elephants, not camels. I'm joking. No, we don't. But you know, after enduring countless Islamophobic attacks by white Americans, including almost being run over by a woman in her white SUV while I was holding my infant in my arm and had my toddler by my side, I withdrew into a shell and I developed a fear of white people. Now that social phobia eventually turned into agoraphobia. I was too afraid to leave my house. Now, I remember this one time, it was a weekend and my husband was out of town. And I realized at night that I had run out of milk. Now, I couldn't step out of my room, let alone my house, from fear of the hatred that lurked outside. So I just sat there all night, holding one kid in each arm, tears streaming down my eyes, watching them as they cried themselves to sleep. Hungry. I was falling apart from the Islamophobic attacks that led to severe phobia of white Americans. But here's the thing. What I didn't realize is that just as they had generalized about all Muslims being terrorists, which led to Islamophobic attacks against us, I too had started to generalize about all white Americans being Islamophobes. And that perception did not change until after I entered intensive therapy. Now, I remember during our group therapy sessions, all of the patients of various anxiety disorders, they would all sit in a circle in a large room, okay? Now to my right was Mr. OCD. To my left, Miss PTSD. And as for me, Miss Congeniality. I'm kidding. I actually held two titles, Miss Social Anxiety Disorder and Miss Agoraphobia. Now, our very first exposure therapy exercise would be to introduce ourselves to the class. So, you know, guys, the whole drill that starts with, hello, my name is, right? Actually, have you guys ever had anxiety over the fear of having anxiety? All of you Toastmasters members and speakers, right? You know, guys, believe it or not, my anxiety used to be so intense that when my turn came to introduce myself, not only couldn't I remember what to say, I couldn't even remember my name. Now, the hot flush of embarrassment I felt every time that happened over the next few days could have easily been avoided with name tags, right? You know, slowly as I started to feel safe and opened up, as we shared our deepest fears, our adversities, and our vulnerabilities, we realized Just as musician Ronnie Dunn sings, we all say words that we regret. We all cry tears. We all bleed red. Now, my therapist was Joanne. She was blonde and blue-eyed and was similar in stature to the lady in the parking lot who almost ran us over. Now, whenever I would share my Islamophobic experiences with her, she would get all teary-eyed and she would always offer to hug me. As I got closer to the people I feared, as I got to know them better, my walls fell down and we built bridges of understanding through empathy. Now, the day I joined Toastmasters, I was assigned a Jewish mentor named Holly. Now, I remember this one time after the meeting, Holly said to me, "Sarah, come over for bagels and lox." Now, having misheard "and" for "in" all along during my drive, I just kept wondering, why do Jews lock their bagels? You know, guys, one of the best ways of moving in is to break bread with strangers, as you are bound to become friends after that. You know, like the saying goes, the way to the heart is through the stomach. Now, Holly and I formed a beautiful friendship, but every now and then I'd always wonder, what does she really think of me? Now, not as a friend, not even as a mentee, but as a Muslim. And then one day, Holly said to me, "You know, Sarah, even though I'll never bear children, you have filled that void in my life." Now, we did have our differences. She'd weep for her loved ones in Israel and I would for mine in Palestine. Yet our hearts were always intertwined like the messages of our holy scriptures. People are hard to hate close up. When we move in, we have the opportunity to hear stories that we would have otherwise never been able to hear. Stories about how innocent people get dragged into ideological wars and are left with nothing but broken windows, broken bones, and broken families. You know, when I took up stand-up comedy, I met Gordon, my very first atheist friend. Now, even though we seemed worlds apart, humor transcended our differences and bonded us together. Now, I remember this one time, Gordon posted a picture of us on Facebook with a caption, "My favorite Muslim." To which I replied, "Dude, I am the only Muslim you know." Peace in pluralism and unity in diversity. That is the beauty of humanity. Now today, you know, guys, in the news media and the politicians who tend to dominate the airwaves, they use dehumanization to divide people and to promote hate. Dehumanization demonizes those perceived as enemy by using words and images to portray them as morally degenerate. Now, as a Muslim of Kashmiri descent, I am well aware of their struggle for human dignity and self-determination. And yet, having distant relatives in the Indian military, I've listened to heartfelt stories about sacrifices they've made for their country. And as a Muslim married to a Pakistani, I've heard similar stories of sacrifice from my husband's relatives who served in the Pakistani military. So I've had the opportunity to hear both sides of the story. Empathy can be a radical force for transformation. So we must extend the boundaries of our moral universe by embracing our enemies. Now, I've listened to the hurt and have been moved to tears by cries from both sides. And more importantly, guys, I've come to understand that we all share the same hopes, the same dreams, the same love of country, and the same willingness to sacrifice to protect our people. Now, did you guys know that when Mahatma Gandhi witnessed the conflict between Muslims and Hindus leading up to independence, India's independence in 1947, did you know what he declared? I am a Muslim and a Hindu and a Christian and a Jew. From the comfort of our living rooms, based on the information that we receive from the news media, it's very easy to decide what the fate of a people should be, what is best for them. But how can we render judgment without listening to their stories? Now, as a hijabi Muslim with such a diverse background, I may be easy to hate, especially in today's political climate. Unless, of course, people are willing to move in and get to know me. And that is why we should break bread with strangers, especially get to know those with different views, and let go of the attitude that for me to be right, I must prove you to be wrong. Arguments may win debates, but never win hearts. So moving in and embracing our differences while recognizing our shared humanity, that is the only way to foster peace in a turbulent world. But here's the catch. As the Dalai Lama once said, world peace begins with inner peace. Thus, in order to promote peace around, we must first create peace within. So guys, is it possible to cultivate calm amid chaos? Or even harder, is it possible to maintain peace within while being victimized by injustice? It is possible, but it is not easy. It requires the art of attitude. So let me share with you a story. How many of you love coffee? Awesome. Now imagine that you guys just entered your favorite coffee shop, okay? You can smell the aroma of fresh coffee beans in the air. Now you start walking up to the register, all smiles, and then suddenly you are greeted by a face grouchier than the Grinch. You know, guys, the barista who makes cappuccino at my neighborhood cafe, he always smiles and greets everyone in the queue until it's my turn. And then all of a sudden his face turns to stone. No greetings, eyes glaring like he's grinding my soul along with the coffee beans. You know who does he remind me of? The soup Nazi from Seinfeld. You guys remember? No soup for you. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Now, I'm sure it's the hijab. I used to think, I always used to think, as I've experienced that during post 9/11. Now, earlier in such situations, I'd feel upset, I'd get angry, I'd feel offended or hurt. And my knee-jerk reaction would have been to confront him. But all of that changed a few years ago. A few years ago, I was in Chicago, my hometown, visiting my family as I do every summer. And it was one of those sweaty, sultry summer days in Chicago. And I promised my sons and my nephews that I would take them to the park where they could run around as much as they wanted. But first, I needed to stop at a store. Now, I remember walking into the store looking like a mama goose with all 5 boys trailing behind me like a row of ducklings. Now, Ibrahim, my youngest nephew, he was wearing his superhero cape to the store. Just in case he needed to save all the women from overspending, I'm sure. Now, as I pushed my cart along, suddenly I got this eerie feeling that I was being watched. Now, has anyone ever felt like that before? Okay, so all of those who are not nodding their heads clearly are the ones stalking. Now, I noticed an employee at a distance, and she was staring straight at us. Idris, my youngest son, he accidentally stepped on a plush toy that was lying on the floor. Now, within seconds, that employee rushed towards us and yelled, "Don't step on that." I said, "I'm so sorry, it was an accident." "No, it wasn't," she insisted. And then she stomped away, hands clenched by her side. Now, seeing my face turn red from anxiety, my older son, Jibril, got scared. I comforted him. I said, "That's okay. I'm all right." But I wasn't okay. Feelings of guilt and shame swept over me. I felt horrible for not standing up for my child when she yelled at him. But I didn't want the kids to see my inner conflict, so I just continued shopping. Now, right then, my nephew, Ibrahim, he started to untie his superhero cape, and then he dropped it on the floor, complaining, "My neck hurts." Now, I looked up and I saw the same employee barreling towards us. She then grabbed the cape furiously. I said, "It doesn't belong to the store, it belongs to the kid." Frustrated, she flung the cape back down and stomped away, grumbling under her breath. Now, as I watched my kids stare at me with wide eyes, I thought to myself, "That's it, I am not going to take this anymore." So I followed her and I confronted her. I said, "What is your problem?" She turned around and screeched, "Your kids are animals." I yelled, "How dare you talk about my kids like that?" She hollered even louder and the conflict escalated. Guys, my heart was pounding so hard from both anger and anxiety that I felt like it would break through my chest. I kept thinking to myself, don't be weak. Don't let her intimidate you. The kids are watching. Fuming, she walked away and she disappeared into the employees only room. I called over another clerk and I demanded that she summon the manager, insisting that I would not leave that store until that employee admitted her appalling behavior and apologized. Now, when the store manager didn't arrive, I asked for the complaint center number. And then what I did was I took my phone, I put it on speaker so that the kids could hear my entire conversation, and then I explained the whole incident to the complaint manager. Now, the complaint manager, he apologized profusely, and then he assured me that disciplinary action would be taken, and that he also said that he would call me back as soon as he had spoken to that employee. So I thanked him for being proactive. And then I turned to the kids and then I said to them, "You see how I handled this? Don't ever be weak. Don't ever be scared. And don't ever let anyone walk all over you." I finally felt like I was being a good role model for the boys. And then a week passed. And I still hadn't heard a call, I still hadn't received a call from the complaint department. It made me wonder, did the manager even do what he had promised? Now, the following week, I was back in Los Angeles with my kids and I resumed my routine. Yet, guys, every now and then, whenever the store incident popped into my head, I would wonder, could I have done anything differently? And then one day, during my weekly session with my teacher, my spiritual philosophy teacher, which actually on a side note, guys, I want to let you know that I'm an ardent student of spiritual philosophy, which I know some of you guys already know, Cynthia and Swapna especially, because as a Muslim, our faith encourages us to study other beliefs. So I'm currently studying Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, and I would encourage you all to consider studying the same, different beliefs, different religious perspectives, because guys, I believe that this is the only way
to understand and to appreciate each other's wisdom and traditions. And this is the only way for us to recognize our similarities and to embrace our differences. Otherwise, we will always be easily influenced by politicians spewing hate and divisiveness with their us versus them propaganda. Now, surely, in the deepest desires of heart and mind, we are all the same, isn't it? So anyway, going back to my story, so like I was saying, during one of my weekly sessions with my spiritual philosophy teacher, I mentioned to her the store incident. And naturally, I was expecting her sympathy for the way I was treated and validation for how I handled it. Believe it or not, she listened patiently without uttering a word. But then she said something completely unexpected, something that was taught to her by her teachers. She said, when someone throws negativity at you, you have three choices: absorb, reflect, transform. And that is the ART, the art of attitude, the ability to choose one's demeanor in any situation. It took me a few days to fully grasp the wisdom of her words. When I initially remained quiet at the store, I was internalizing my pain by blaming myself for being weak and not fighting back. The thing is, when we absorb negativity, it hurts us because their words or behavior trigger an already deeply seated insecurity in us. For example, in my case, I have long believed that I'm weak. Now, for someone else, it could be I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough. Now, when I finally mustered the courage to fight back, although I felt like my reaction was justified at that time, I was reflecting the same negative behavior of that person that had upset me. Guys, when someone wrongs us through their words or actions, it feels normal and natural to get angry, to get upset, isn't it? Because that is our knee-jerk emotional reaction, right? In fact, it may even reassure us that we're being courageous enough to stand up to such people. But does that momentary reassurance help us, or does it hurt us in the long run? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. Let me give you an example. If I were to throw a burning hot coal at someone, whose hand would get burned first? Mine, isn't it? Similarly, in order to fight back, those negative, unpleasant reactions like anger, they have to be aroused in us first, which means we experience them first. They affect us before they reach their target. So is it worth it? Even if the other person deserves it? Even if they started it? As philosopher Epictetus once said, anyone capable of angering you becomes your master. He can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by him. Now, I thought I was being a good role model for the boys by being strong and fighting back. But what I showed them was that I was so weak that I had no control over my reactions because they fluctuate based on others' behavior towards me. If people are kind to us, we feel good. If they are mean to us, we feel angry, we feel hurt, we feel humiliated, and the list of negative emotions can go on. Now, when our temperament is nurtured or inflamed by our environment, we are held hostage. We become prisoners of others' emotional caprices. Now, today, we are strongly inclined to fight anger with anger, hate with hate, vitriol with vitriol. reflecting each other's behavior, perceiving that to be strength. In fact, responding in kind eliminates any chance of building peace. Plus, when we outsource all of our hurt to others by saying that we reacted negatively because of what they said or did, then we empower them to dictate our emotions. Now, guys, there's nothing inherently wrong with standing up for what's right. Okay, don't get me wrong. It is the way that we do it that distinguishes strength from weakness. For example, bad actions should have consequences. Yet fighting back with fear, with intimidation or punishment does not create any meaningful or lasting change in the other person's behavior, let alone the negative feelings that they already harbor towards us. Now, if I had changed my attitude, if I had remained calm and composed, irrespective of the clerk's negative behavior, and if I had responded positively with kindness, with patience and respect, then maybe she would have realized that her actions were out of line. Maybe she would have stopped her aggression or at least taken it down a notch. After all, it takes two for a conflict to thrive, isn't it? Guys, just as water can penetrate the hardest of rocks despite the softest property, persistent gentleness is needed to penetrate the hardest of hearts to transform them. And by maintaining peace within, by staying calm and being polite in the face of anger and vitriol is not easy. It requires strength. It requires us to declare our emotional independence from the words and actions of others. Now, like the barista at my favorite neighborhood cafe, who always glares and grumbles while taking my order. Now, earlier, I would have absorbed or I would have reflected his negativity. But this is what I started to do. Whenever I felt an impulse to react, I'd leave. And then one day, I mustered up the courage to practice a little bit of emotional independence. So basically, I not only smiled when I reached the counter, but I also swallowed my pride and said, "Hello," as he ignored my greeting. And then I even tossed in a "have a nice day" before leaving. Guys, the inherent quality of a rose is that it radiates beauty and fragrance, isn't it? Whether it's given to celebrate the birth or to commemorate the death of a loved one, right? Now, just like the rose, we all have such beautiful innate qualities like love, like peace, like joy. But one bad behavior from the other, and we let go of our beauty, and we absorb or we reflect their ugliness back at them. Next time I visited the coffee shop, I was feeling frisky. So I threw in "So how's your day going?" And guess what? The soup Nazi returned my smile and said, "Not bad, how about you?" And we even exchanged some pleasantries. And guys, before I could deliver my parting line, he beat me to the punch by saying, "Have a wonderful day." So you see, guys, when the qualities we radiate are not dependent on another person's behavior, our persistent softness can penetrate the hardest of hearts and transform them. Now, the barista and I are never going to be bosom buddies. But that summer, my teacher made me realize that in a world where we crave freedom, where we crave liberation and independence, we are emotionally dependent. Because if anyone can make us happy, can make us upset, can make us angry, it means that we are trapped in a state of emotional slavery. Our declaration of emotional independence is at the heart of maintaining peace within. And when we become emotionally independent, we can tolerate any temperament because our inner tranquility is inviolate. And once we can tolerate any temperament, our attitude can inspire transformation in others. Now, you know, guys, when I think of people who exemplified emotional independence, two names come to mind: Nelson Mandela and Viktor Frankl. Now, did you guys know that during Nelson Mandela's imprisonment on Robben Island, the prison guards would take him outside every Thursday and they would make him dig a trench 6 feet deep. And then when he was done, the guards would order him to lie down in the ditch and then they would urinate on him. Now, years later, when Nelson Mandela was about to be inaugurated as the first leader of South Africa, he was asked whom would he like to invite to his first formal dinner as president. And guess what he said? The prison guards from Robben Island. After going through such horrors in prison, any ordinary person would have been consumed by thoughts of revenge, isn't it? And yet Mandela had no resentment or anger because he did not absorb or reflect the negativity. And due to his attitude and his ability to maintain peace within, Mandela was able to promote peace around and transform the lives of others. Now, his example also demonstrates that the source of our suffering is not another's bad temperament, but our inability to tolerate it. We are prisoners of our own personalities. Thus, in order to change our experience, we must work on the resistance our personality generates. And guys, the reason our personality generates resistance is revealed in a much deeper truth, which is going to be very hard to digest. Are you guys ready? The soil can only bring out what's already in the seed. I repeat, the soil can only bring out what's already in the seed. Likewise, if hostility comes out of us, that's because it is part and parcel of our personality. All it takes to trigger that tendency is for someone to show hostility towards us, to get angry at us, to insult us. Remember, guys, despite his horrific treatment in prison, Mandela harbored no anger or no resentment because the soil cannot draw out what's not in the seed. We are prisoners of our own personalities. We sink and swim with our nature. And so in order to change our experience, we must work on our personality. Now, Viktor Frankl, now he of all earthly possessions and tortured in the Nazi or concentration camp during World War II. And yet, due to his optimism, he survived and he helped others survive. Now, he believed that everything can be taken away from a person except the lost human freedom, the ability to choose one's attitude under any circumstances. So you see, guys, while we may not be able to control the outer world, situations, people, their actions, we have full control of our inner world. And if we can maintain our inner peace despite outside turmoil by becoming emotionally independent, then it becomes easier to accept people and situations the way they are. Now, acceptance doesn't mean that we agree with their actions. You know, it only means that our inner peace is not dependent or disrupted by their wrongdoing. And this revolution in perception leads to profound liberation because it transfers power from the external world back to ourselves. Now, guys, the parable of Buddha and the second arrow, it arrives at the same truth. You know that Buddha once asked a student, if a person is struck by an arrow, is it painful? The student replied, yes, it is. And then Buddha asked, if a person is struck by a second arrow, is it more painful? The student said, yes, of course. And then Buddha said, in life, we cannot always control the first arrow. However, the second arrow is our reaction to the first. And with this second arrow comes the possibility of choice. So you see, we are not hapless and helpless victims of the world, rather victims of the attitudes that we bring to it. So remember, guys, world peace begins with inner peace. So in a world full of angry fists and raised voices reflecting anger, hate, and vitriol, perceiving that to be strength, in a world full of broken hearts due to ideological warfare, spewing hate and divisiveness, I implore you to become torchbearers for peace. Peace within and without. And while moving in is the best way to spread peace around, the art of attitude is the only way to maintain peace within. Now, activist and author Shane Claiborne says that peacemaking is the act of interrupting injustice without mirroring it. The act of disarming evil without destroying the evildoer. The act of finding a third way that is neither fight nor flight. It is a revolution of love that sets both the oppressed and the oppressor free. So to conclude, yes, the world needs more peacemongers. It surely needs more peacemongers, as peace is the only battle worth waging. Over to you, Swapna.
Seriously, you need a standing ovation.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Oh, it was really, I'm still in that zone now. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very moving. And so many takeaways for us. So, Cynthia, are you going to take care of the question Q&A? You want my help?
No, yeah, great. Yes, so put your any questions you have, or kind of been seeing the comments coming in. And before we light up the chat with our questions and answers, I have a question for you.
Absolutely, Cynthia.
Awesome. Since this is a Child Abuse Awareness Month, we're highlighting that. So is there a way that, especially someone that has suffered child abuse when they were a child and they've grown up and they're a survivor now, how can they show this art of peace within themselves?
That's a great question, Cynthia. Thank you for asking this question. Now, since you did, I'm going to share with you guys a secret, okay? When I was very young, I had a babysitter, and she would, and this is back home, back in Bombay in India. She was a teenager, Cynthia, and she would lock me in the bathroom for hours with my hand to the faucet. blindfolded and my mouth tied so that I couldn't scream. And for hours, and that went on for a long time. So I did endure, I myself was a victim of child abuse, so I can absolutely understand and empathize with anybody here in this group too who've experienced trauma or child abuse, been victims of that. Cynthia, the good news is that she was arrested for trying to burn her parents alive. So she spared me in that sense. So I'm grateful for that. But Cynthia, that experience not only led to severe debilitating claustrophobia in me since childhood, which I somewhat outgrew eventually, but the positive, Cynthia, that came out of the pain was that, believe it or not, I developed a heightened sense of empathy. Cynthia, the ability to put myself in the shoes of a criminal and to realize that what else would a distorted, perverted mind do than to commit such heinous crimes? Now, Cynthia, I recall the first books that I ever read as a teenager were real crime books. Because I was really trying to understand the mind of criminals, having gone through that traumatic experience, and trying to understand what type of conditioning is required for a human being to turn into such a criminal. So what, toxic environment, what upbringing, what abuse and psychological suffering or torture they themselves have been exposed to turn into such monsters, right? So, over the years, Cynthia, after going through some traumatic experiences, including Islamophobic attacks for almost 1 decade, I've realized that whether it's abuse in childhood or Islamophobic attacks as an adult, every painful experience carries a lesson. And we continue to suffer internally until it has taught us exactly what we need to learn. Cynthia, the biggest lesson that pain can teach us is that it can either turn us into a victim, it can shape us into a warrior, or it can transform to a victor. And I believe that it is our attitude that determines which one. So, Cynthia, to answer your question, in order to cultivate that inner peace for victims of, trauma, any type of trauma, whether it's child abuse, I usually tell people there's 3 things that we can do to cultivate inner peace. Actually, there's a lot of things, but being a Toastmaster, I try to summarize stuff into 3 points. I love to do. But basically what I share with people, and during my support groups too, who have been victims like me, is that the number 1 thing to do is to reclaim your power, right? By not allowing anything or anyone outside to control your inner peace. And I mentioned some of that in my talk today as well. The second thing I say to people is build your emotional stamina. Now, what I mean by that, Cynthia, is that I remember my spiritual philosophy teacher would say to me that, Sarah, we are always grateful to those people who are in our lives who are nice to us, isn't it? But we should be even more grateful to those people who are mean to us. Because if they didn't come into our lives, we wouldn't have the opportunity to practice virtues like patience, like perseverance, like resilience, like tolerance, like non-judgmental acceptance. So take advantage of those mean people in your lives because they are the ones who help you build your emotional stamina. And Cynthia, the last thing, which is often misunderstood by people, is to maintain inner peace is forgive to live. And I'm reminded of an ethicist and theologian by the name Lewis Meads, right? And he once said that forgive is to set a prisoner free and then discover that the prisoner was you. Because forgiveness isn't something that you do for the person who has wronged you. It is something that you do for you. Because holding a grudge or resentment or that trauma or that hurt against someone who has hurt you, that doesn't punish them. It only punishes you. So forgiving is the best way to take back your power. But, to be clear, Cynthia, forgiveness isn't about saying what the other person did was okay. Okay, it's not about that. It's about choosing to let go of the hurt and the anger and the trauma that interferes with our ability to enjoy life. Also forgiving, I believe, is the best way or the most wonderful way to honor ourselves, because it affirms to the world that you deserve to be happy.
Yeah.
Always remember, Cynthia, that when you forgive, you heal. And when you let go, you grow. And, Cynthia, like I said, it's often misunderstood. So to clarify, forgiveness doesn't mean that you're just going around forgiving every criminal or what have you. I forgive you, I forgive you. Not that. That's not what I mean. You have to take whatever action is needed to prevent further heinous crimes. And that could be, the person needs to be arrested, the person needs to be quarantined, or whatever is needed to rehabilitate that mind. But you not do it, or you should not do it from a place of hatred or from a place of resentment or vengeance, because that will only negatively impact you, not them. So, Cynthia, I say to people, it is possible, but it is not easy to cultivate inner peace. And I believe that this is the way to do it. I believe that this is the only way to do it. What your question, Cynthia?
Yes, that's beautiful. Wow. Amazing. And now I'm going to read some of these amazing comments we had. We had from Kimmy Avery. I'm so inspired by Sarah. What an exceptional speaker. Her storytelling is powerful, authentic, and vulnerable. Just wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And from Dr. Michelle Peticolis, she says, art. I love that. Yes, transform. Then we asked, what was the T? It was transform. Then from one of our guests, Malafi, superb message, art of attitude. Thanks, Sarah, for the peace message. Awesome. Maureen Xavier says, what a masterful speech. So moving, enlightening, and life-changing. And Rosalind Kahn says, absolutely incredible. Love it from top to bottom. And then from our guest, Dr. Grace, amazing talk. Way to go, Sarah. And from our guest, Eileen, great speech. Peace is important. Inspiring. Wonderful message, says Rosemary Sweeney. Then Dr. Michelle says, sometimes the emotions triggered by an attack are difficult to control. How do you recommend personality mastery?
Wow, that's such an amazing question. They are very difficult to control, and it takes, you're right. It takes a lot of practice. I went through that practice through psychotherapy, intensive anxiety program where I was hospitalized over there, and basically, I'm reminded of something Viktor Frankl once said, as he's the inventor of logotherapy. I studied a little bit of psychotherapy to help myself through it too. And Viktor Frankl used to say, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our freedom. So if we can only realize that there is a space, We don't have to have that knee-jerk reaction, just that level of awareness. What will happen is that eventually when we have knee-jerk reactions, the first thing we'll do is we'll recognize it. We'll accept it, we'll acknowledge it, we'll have enough self-compassion to not beat ourselves up over the head for having that. And eventually we would be able to notice that space enough to not choose not to react and rather respond. And it in my own personal experience of having endured Islamophobic attacks for 10 years, I remember how my knee-jerk reaction were so, it came so naturally to me. And then I remember after going through therapy, I remember this one time I was at a grocery store and this lady was cussing and yelling at me and, all kinds of swear words. And believe it or not, I actually recognized that space. And because of that, I looked at her and I smiled at her and I said, and a very good day to you too. And what can another person do when you say something like that? It makes them feel so stupid because, like I said, it takes two for a conflict to thrive, right? I mean, if you are not feeding in, they have nothing else to go further with, right? So she had nothing to say. She just didn't know. She just looked at me and then she walked away. And so, sometimes they walk away feeling like they weren't able to intimidate you, whatever it is. And sometimes they walk away thinking that maybe not all Muslims are terrorists or whatever they say in the news, because I met this hijabi Muslim woman and I cussed at her and I yelled at her and she smiled back instead of bombing me or whatever their perception is a Muslim woman would do. So, it is very hard. It is definitely very hard, as you rightfully mentioned, but it is not impossible. Everything is possible, mind over matter, as long as we get ourselves, are persistent and, and determined to change within and then bring about the change around. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, that was beautiful. Thank you. And then how to control the immediate anger reaction. This is from Malati. When faced with hateful or disrespectful situation, especially when you are not at fault. And I think you just answered that beautifully.
Yes, I just answered that. I was about to say one more thing. I completely forgot. Malati, as soon as I remember, when Cynthia was asking this question, I was like, oh, there's one more point I would like to share with you. As how, oh yes, just to, guys, just to realize, Malati, is that whether it's people at work or whether it's your own family members or anybody who's spewing hateful words or hurtful words towards you, realize that every single one of us are victim, that we are hostage to our own personalities, right? Just like we don't have the capacity to be respectful in their words, we have to realize what they are doing is they are actually exposing the threshold of our patience and tolerance. So it's a great opportunity for us to practice or to animate those qualities in us that we value so much, that we think we are love, joy, patience, and what have you. This person right here who's doing this to us, he or she is giving us that opportunity to practice those virtues. So take every challenge as an opportunity for inner growth. That's what I was saying.
Great. Beautiful. And Carolyn Douglas, our division director, she asked that you explain ART again, art again.
Absolutely.
What are the three components?
ART is the art of attitude. So A stands for absorb. When we absorb negativity and we internalize it, and that's because they're triggering something in us that we already hold deeply, some insecurity in us. For example, if somebody tells me, "Oh, Sarah, you're so obese," I'm not going to be offended at all because I'm a petite person, right? But if
I have always been very self-conscious about my weight, and I've always felt like I'm not slim enough or pretty enough. Then if somebody says, hey, you don't look that that slim today in that dress, it's going to trigger an emotional reaction right away, isn't it? Because they have triggered an already deeply seated insecurity in me, irrespective of what they say, absorbing the negativity. So that was my example in my story, how I absorbed it. The other is reflect. So R stands for reflect. So we are reflecting the same bad behavior of that got us upset to begin with. So we are fighting anger with anger, hate with hate, vitriol with vitriol, right? And the last is transform, where what we are doing is we are, by maintaining that inner peace, by staying calm, despite outer turmoil, what we are doing is we are transforming change in others. We are inspiring change in others. So that's the third one. So absorb, reflect, transform. That's the art of attitude.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we're running out of time here. Let's see. You can save the chat. It would be great to respond it. So how could people connect with you?
Yes, let me, if you go Google or whatever Sarah Khan says, let me write it here. Sarah Khan says, okay? And you can find me under Sarah Khan says. You can find me on Facebook, on on Facebook, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, what have you, anyway.
All of the above.
All of them, yes, all of them. So, and you can reach out, private message me on any of those platforms, and I'd be more than willing to connect with you. And any questions, any queries you might have, more than willing to answer.
So there's just some great comments. I'll just read them quickly, and then maybe your questions you can pose to Sarah on one of her social media outlets. So Dr. Grace says, a soft answer turns away wrath, the good book says in Proverbs 15. And Michelle says, I love that. Take every challenge as an opportunity for practicing inner peace. And Rosalind Kahn says, I learned from one of my students who was bullied, kill them with kindness. It always wins.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for being here and for sharing your wisdom with us. We really appreciate it. This has been a special event that we had such a powerful presentation during it. And one of the things that we like to do is a takeaway. What are you taking away with you today? And then we give you a virtual chocolate. So would you like to share what you're taking away, just briefly?
Who, the audience members or?
They will after, but what are you taking away?
What am I taking away from today's meeting? I am taking away the fact that from all of the questions that you asked, we all struggle, we all suffer, we all have our ups and downs in life. But when we open up to each other, when we share our vulnerabilities and all of our fears and everything, we realize how much we have in common, isn't it? And collectively, we can come up with the most incredible solutions, not only to help ourselves, but also to help the world and everybody around us. So I was very inspired by your comments and by all of the questions that you brought out, even like the concerns that you had, because I went through that journey myself. I'm not emotionally stable right now because I was gifted like that. I went through a lot of ups and downs. So I could absolutely empathize with everything that you were saying, connect and relate to it. So my biggest takeaway is such meetings are such an amazing opportunity, not to put speakers like us on a pedestal to give a monologue, but just to help really connect with one another and be so open and honest and vulnerable with one another. So I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed the connection with you all. So thank you. I'm really grateful.
Beautiful. Would you like a virtual chocolate?
Absolutely. I have dark chocolate here. I have my, so I'll enjoy your virtual chocolate with it.
Here you go. Got a catch. No sugar, no calories, and no guilt.
That's terrific. That's the best kind.
Absolutely. And Linda, do we have anyone raising their hand to share their takeaway?
Cynthia, I want to share Orna. something. Orna has something to say.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, for having this session today. And thanks, Sarah, for being here. For me, my takeaway is her comment about emotional stamina and fight and not flight. I think that was very powerful for me, mainly because post 9/11, I was in the US and somehow felt that that was not the environment I want to give my children. So we moved out from US. But I feel now, after listening to Sarah, is that, oh, I should have stayed there to show something, right? Maybe that wisdom wasn't there at that point. So thank you so much for making me realize that we cannot judge people by just over the board. And everyone has their own plus and minus. To see the other side of the story was something that I had learned today. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great. Do you want your chocolates, Rona? Here you go. Woohoo! And who else do we have that wants to share their takeaway?
Rosalind Khan and then Dr. Gray.
Rosalind. Okay, great. Rosalind.
Hey, Sarah, it's been a long time since I've seen you. I remember back when we were in the same Toastmaster club way back long ago when you were up on the stage practicing those speeches.
I know.
The time that you spent working with me. And the thing I admired as a speaker myself is the way that you so eloquently move from one story to the next, and you just pull us along in a way that you present facts and pieces as if they just come off the top of your head. And so many people in the classroom struggle, how do I get those sources, and how do I say those, and how does that stories come out? And it was just such a gift to see how they all come together. And I put a message there for you in the chat. So God bless you. And it's great to see you're doing amazing things, and love to hear what's happening with your kids. Did they turn out okay?
They turn out. My kids have 2 kittens now, so they all are turning out okay. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
So wonderful to see you too after so many years.
Do you want a chocolate, Rosalind?
Sure.
Here you go.
And then Dr. Grace.
What was that?
Dr. Grace would like to say something.
Dr. Grace. Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Grace.
Thank you very much. I really found your talk to be very powerful and inspiring. And I love your command of language you use to personify what you're talking about. It was just so easy to connect with your talk. And one other thing that I got away from is that no matter what the battles are that you faced in your life in the past as a child, because a lot of times people hold on to that, okay, this is what happened to me as a child, and therefore I'm now doing this, which is not necessarily for their own good. And they go into self-destructive behavior, and they hide behind the veil of saying that, okay, because that happened to me in my childhood. And having gone and experienced abuse and witnessed it in so many different aspects of relationship, I really like the way that you brought that out, that, okay, you explained what you went through and the transformation that happened within you, which is an inspiration to anyone who's ever been hurt, or whether they were abused as a child or as a grown-up. It's an inspiration to say, do not hide behind the veil of saying that this is what happened to me and therefore now I'm this bad person. You make the decision how you want to respond to it today, because now you have the opportunity to pave your future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr.
Dr. Grace.
Dr. Grace, thank you so much for sharing that.
Great. Can we have one more? We have 1 minute left.
I'd like to say something
really
Cynthia.
fast. Okay.
Yes. So
I loved your speech, Sarah. And one of the things that was really moving to me is being a peacemonger, choosing to come at a situation with peace. Anger actually is toxic for our bodies. And if we have a chance of moving the needle, if we choose to come from a place of love, like somebody's mean to us and we say, I wish you a really beautiful day. And we say it from the bottom of our heart, not a snarky, have a beautiful day. We just say it with love. And it kind of, I think it creates a something that they ponder later. And that's how we can be emissaries of light. And I loved your phrase, peacemonger.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want a virtual chocolate, Kimmy?
Oh, yes.
Woohoo, here it comes.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for all the wisdom that you gave us and the new ideas and how we can be differently and be peacemongers ourselves. So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening or good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you so much. Bye-bye for now.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
you.
you so much. Bye.